Good afternoon, and thank you all for standing by. For the duration of today's conference, all participants' lines are on a listen-only mode until the question and answer session. At that time, if you would like to ask a question, press star 1. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Vijeth Iyengar. Thank you, sir. You may begin.
Thank you, Holly. A warm welcome to you all, and depending on where you're dialing in from, a good afternoon or good morning. On behalf of the Administration for Community Living, Administration on Aging, I would like to express our profound appreciation to you for joining us at today's webinar on Intergenerational Connections Help Build Healthy and Prosperous Communities. My name is Vijeth Iyengar, and I'm in the Office of Supportive and Caregiver Services here at the Administration for Community Living. I'll be serving as your moderator for today's webinar discussion. As you can imagine, convening this panel of esteemed featured speakers was no small feat, which is why, before I introduce today's speakers and go over a few logistics, I would like to give special thanks to the staffs of the respective panelists for their efforts in making this webinar a reality. Thank you once again for your time, feedback, and leadership. I also want to take this opportunity to thank each of our featured speakers for sharing their time, expertise, and insights to participants spanning the country and representing organizations ranging from academic and research universities, area agencies on aging, and foundations, among many others. As the operator noted, all phone lines are in mute-only mode. If you have any questions during a presenter's remarks, please submit your questions using the chat pod feature of the webinar. We will attempt to address all submitted questions during the Q&A portion of the webinar, which will occur during the last 5 to 10 minutes of the webinar. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties with the webinar interface, you're encouraged to use the chat pod to let us know as soon as possible or email me, the moderator. As a reminder, today's webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording when it becomes available. Without further ado, our first featured speaker today will be Dr. Jerome Adams, the 20th Surgeon General of the United States and Vice Admiral in the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I will now hand it off to Surgeon General Adams to provide his remarks.
Well, thank you, Vijeth, for the introduction and all the great work you do with the Administration for Community Living. Thank you to everyone on the phone line and on the webinar for joining in. This is going to be a really great chat. We've been having some great conversation in the room, even just leading up to this, and I'm looking forward to even more throughout this call. Thank you, Administrator Robertson. I really appreciate the opportunity to join today's webinar on intergenerational connections to help build healthy and prosperous communities. I'm always happy and excited to support ACL, but this event is especially important to me. I carved it out in my schedule because growing up I was very close to both of my grandparents and saw the value in my life from having those strong intergenerational connections. I've got a 14, a 13, and a 9-year-old right now, so both my parents and my in-laws are now grandparents, and I have yet another very selfish interest in making sure we do all we can to strengthen those connections. And I have a great admiration and respect for older adults and the foundations that they set for our families and our communities. I feel it's part of my duty as Surgeon General to continue to build on that foundation for generations to follow, and this webinar is a great way to do this. First of all, I want you all to understand that as Surgeon General, my role is to communicate the science around health to the American people. And I want you all also to understand that in addition to great programs, there's actually an evolving amount of science out there that shows that intergenerational connections do help build healthy and prosperous communities. One of my calls to action to you that I will issue right now is that you continue to collect that data, you continue to publish, you continue to lift up the science that shows us the programs that you all care about, that you're all supporting and are passionate about, help lead to various positive outcomes, not just in the health arena and beyond. And speaking of beyond the health arena, I want you to understand what I'm focused on as Surgeon General. I've got 3 overarching priorities. Number 1 is addressing substance misuse, and in particular, the opioid epidemic. Number 2 is improving the health of communities by making the connection between investments in community health and resulting economic prosperity. And number 3 is raising awareness of the link between our nation's health and its safety and national security. My guiding principle across all of my priorities is better health through better partnerships, because we can only change our collective futures together, and I know every single one of you agrees with me. But when the solutions are complex, and if we're going to be honest about it in this era, often controversial, it's even more important that we break down those silos. We need powerful partnerships, and we need a meaningful collaboration. And I mentioned making the connection between investments in health and resulting economic prosperity. My Community Health and Economic Prosperity initiative is an example. CHEP, as I like to call it, because we love our acronyms in government, is the concept that community health and economic prosperity are inextricably linked. When community health is poor, so is community prosperity. But we also want to show that when community health is all that it can be, that the community sees outcomes beyond health metrics. And to dig a little bit further into that, right now our future prosperity is at risk in many communities because many of our people are not as healthy as they could be. This is a huge drain on the local workforce and on employers, as well as on healthcare dollars and on the U.S. healthcare system. Almost 1/5 of every dollar generated in this economy goes to offset healthcare expenses, and that's money that can't be used to create jobs, to increase wages, or to pay for other priorities such as education, such as safety, such as security. Through my CHEP initiative and the underlying theme of my tenure of better health through better partnerships, I'm calling on faith leaders, civic and corporate board members, the business community, educators, and all of you on this call to come together to identify both the barriers to and solutions for good health in your communities. By encouraging and supporting those partnerships to invest in better housing, employment that meets the needs of the employee, affordable access to healthy food and safe places to be active, and improved efforts to ensure higher education. We're taking a ground-up approach to a nationwide health problem. And today I'm calling on all of you to show us how bonding across traditional generational boundaries can help us create these healthier communities and achieve our goals of not only better health, but higher wages, increased productivity, decreased absenteeism, and better school performance. I also want to talk really quickly about my health and national security initiative. We know that healthier communities are safer communities that have less crime. But did you know that 7 out of 10 of our 18 to 24-year-olds in this country are ineligible for military service because they can't pass the physical, can't meet the educational requirements, or have a criminal history? For the sake of our nation's safety, we need a population that is both mentally and physically healthy and able to defend our nation in a crisis. And we also know that out of those who join our nation's military, there's a higher suicide rate than the national average. 20 people who are either veterans or currently affiliated with the military die by suicide every day in this country. Except we know this isn't a result of their service and sacrifice alone. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, is one of the biggest predictors of military and veteran suicide. And one of the best ways to mitigate ACEs is to have a positive adult role model in your life, to promote the intergenerational connections that we are talking about on this very webinar. My office is dedicated to highlighting the factors that can increase resilience among youth, such as mentorship and a strong sense of community that can lead to better health outcomes for life. And again, that's why intergenerational connections are so very important. When generations support each other, we can improve resilience and help strengthen the fabric of our communities and our national security. I applaud ACL for their work in helping to promote intergenerational programming that benefits all members of the community, from senior citizens to children. Now, turning more specifically to the focus of today's webinar topic, there's an abundance of evidence chronicling the positive health outcomes from intergenerational programs. These programs facilitate important planned and informal interactions between children, youth, and older adults, often in community-based settings. For example, youth participation in intergenerational programs has been reported to boost positive perceptions and attitudes younger adults have towards older adults, combating what stereotypes they may have previously harbored, fostering better relationships, and improving community safety and security. And the benefits of these programs are not limited to younger adults. These programs can boost social connectedness and community engagement, dampening the negative health effects of social isolation and loneliness that are often experienced by older adults. Important areas which will be covered in greater depth by other speakers, including Administrator Robertson and Senior Core Director Cox Roush. These programs also touch on two of my initiatives that I discussed earlier, and I also want to highlight a 2016 study entitled Hidden in Plain Sight, How Intergenerational Relationships Can Transform Our Future, from the Stanford Center on Longevity, Encore.org, and the Packard Foundation. It underscores the importance and potential value older adults can have as participants in programs that foster intergenerational engagement. Through the transfer of expertise and skills critical to professional success and the sharing of tips and techniques to advance professional and emotional development, older adults can play a role in helping set up younger adults for future career and personal success. And never at a time in my history as a health advocate can I think of that being more important than in the midst of an opioid epidemic, at a time when we have young people who are often left without parents, at a time when we have young adults who often don't have the skill sets to be able to go out into the workforce and successfully reintegrate back into society. It's critical that we empower our older adults to be able to help those folks along if we're going to dig ourselves out of the unfortunate hole that we're in. So in conclusion, as Surgeon General, as your Surgeon General, I want you all to know I'm committed to strengthening connections across the community and across generations, all while forging new partnerships with everyone else who can help us create healthy and prosperous communities. We all have unique opportunities to leverage our influence and resources to forge stronger partnerships. We just need to really think about who's not at the table. We need to think about how we can be better advocates, not only for our young people, but for folks across generations who have something to contribute. Everyone has something to contribute, even someone in a nursing home who, in many cases, we see as simply being a deficit on society, has so much value to still bring to the table and can still lift up our young people and give them someone who they can talk to, give them positive advice, make them feel that they are worthwhile and that they can be a contributor. We will achieve our individual and mutual goals when we all make a commitment to sitting at a table together, sharing lessons learned, and challenging each other to do more, to do it better, and to do it together. So again, thank you for joining on this call, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. Please know that the Office of the Surgeon General is with you in these initiatives, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you as time allows so that we can work on improving intergenerational connections to improve community health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Surgeon General Adams, for sharing your personal touch points with today's topic, providing opening remarks, and providing further context to today's webinar. Our next featured speaker is Lance Robertson, who serves as the U.S. Assistant Secretary for Aging and Administrator for the Administration for Community Living in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's now my pleasure to hand it off to Assistant Secretary Robertson to provide his remarks.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Iyengar. Appreciate your facilitation and the work that you and your team put into making this webinar a reality. Dr. Adams, I have to express to you, and I hope listeners can appreciate that our country is phenomenally blessed to have a Surgeon General who is so engaged, empathetic, and partnership-driven. I have to tell you, I know from having a front row seat that we are very fortunate to have Dr. Adams as our Surgeon General. So thank you for being here, and thank you for participating.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me steal your opening spot.
Hey, no better. I do want to thank the Surgeon General for providing a background of his office, the areas of importance that touch upon today's webinar topic, and for discussing the empirical evidence supporting the importance of intergenerational programs and services in boosting community engagement. As the nation looks to celebrate National Volunteer Week, which begins this Sunday, April 7th, we thought it would be great to bring together national and local leaders in the areas of public health, aging, and national service to focus attention on the important role volunteerism and intergenerational connections can play in providing and maintaining resilience and vibrancy in our communities. Let me take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about the Administration for Community Living here at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. ACL was created around the fundamental principle that all people, regardless of age or disability, should be able to live independently and fully participate in their communities. The agency was established initially in 2012, bringing together federal agencies focused on serving older adults and people with disabilities, along with most federal human service programs for those populations, including intellectual and developmental disabilities. At ACL, we work in 4 key ways to help make community living an option for people. First, we have an advocacy mission. We advocate across the federal government and across the country for older adults, people with disabilities, and families and caregivers. Second, we also invest in training and education. This includes workforce training, helping families learn to support a loved one with a lifelong disability, and also training to help the aging and disability networks improve their abilities to partner with the healthcare side of our business. Volunteerism is another way of gaining important skills that can potentially translate into a career. Third, we fund research and innovation, including everything from new business models to improving the long-term sustainability of community programs to high-tech research and developing even assistive technology tools. But finally, the fourth and the majority of our work, though, that is conducted here is administering programs that provide services and supports in the community. Those are provided by networks of states, community-based organizations, and also include universities, faith-based, and other nonprofit organizations. Collectively, we refer to them as the Aging and Disability Networks. These organizations provide a foundation of supports that assist older adults and persons with disabilities to remain healthy and independent in their homes and communities, avoiding more expensive institutional care, which is absolutely critical. Since joining ACL, I've been meeting with advocates and other organizations from both the aging and disability communities. Been talking about my 5 pillars. The Surgeon General introduced his priorities. Here at ACL, we have 5 pillars, which are key areas of focus that are critically important across both aging and disability. Several of the pillars dovetail into the focus of today's webinar. I want to briefly introduce those to you so that you can undoubtedly see the relevance, and I suspect you will also personally connect to them. The first is connecting people to resources. We want to do a better job of helping people find the services and supports and navigate the systems they need in a time of need. This includes ensuring older adults have the ability to access volunteer and engagement opportunities in their communities. Our second pillar is supporting families and caregivers. When older adults and people with disabilities need support to live independently, most often that support is provided by families. Support to families, of course, is a critical component to supporting community living. There are successful programs that offer opportunities for volunteers to assist caregivers. In fact, this spring, ACL is going to be issuing a funding opportunity announcement, FOA, exploring local programming designed to place volunteers in communities to assist family caregivers, older adults, and persons with disabilities by providing non-medical care. Our third pillar is protecting rights and preventing abuse. Honestly and candidly, everyone has the right to live their lives free from abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and to be in charge of their own lives. ACL is committed to developing systems and programs that prevent abuse from happening, protect people from abusive situations, and to support people who have experienced abuse in helping them recover. Our fourth pillar is strengthening our networks. The Aging and Disability Networks, as I've referenced previously, are the backbone of the services and supports for people with disabilities and older adults. It is absolutely essential that we work to ensure that they are able to compete and thrive in the rapidly changing healthcare environment. And our final pillar is expanding employment opportunities. As a country, we miss out when people with disabilities and older adults don't have a chance to contribute as colleagues, business owners, and taxpayers. That's why we're working with our partners across the federal government, with states, communities, and partners to identify and remove the obstacles that keep people out of the workplace. Shifting slightly, the focus on today's webinar shines a spotlight on the value of intergenerational engagement programs. A 2018 poll commissioned for Generations United and the Eisner Foundation revealed that a strong majority of Americans, 94%, agree that older people have skills or talents that can help address a young person's needs. And 89% believe the same about children and youth addressing the needs of older adults. What a win-win proposition then. Intergenerational programs encourage the young and old to share their talents and resources and support each other in relationships that benefit both the individuals and the community. These programs are proven strategies to strengthen communities and enhance services by engaging older adults, children, and youth. Older adults can share their rich experience and their own talents in a wide array of areas while maintaining a sense of linkage to the community. For younger participants, intergenerational programs can provide them with the opportunity to draw on the knowledge and life experience of an elder within the context of a non-judgmental relationship, allowing for a unique interchange between young and old. For example, an award-winning program offered by the Jefferson Area Board for Aging and Area Agency on Aging in Charlottesville, Virginia, recruits and trains older adults to work with teachers and students in local public schools. Another award-winning program is the Sharing Teens and Elder Project, or STEP, in Olympia, Washington. STEP is a multi-generational program where teens and elders gather to bridge the generations through conversation. Now, is that texting or tweeting, or are they talking? They're talking. Okay, conversation. The project is helping to reduce social isolation and provides a safe place where generations can talk and share. You'll be hearing more about some of these and additional examples of excellent intergenerational efforts from other speakers today. Let's talk about social isolation. The work that we do at ACL in a broad sense and more specifically has never been more important. We all know our nation is aging rapidly. 1 in 7 Americans is 65 or older, and in just a few short years, this fast-growing segment of the population will number more than 56 million people. Recently, much has been learned about the impact of social isolation and loneliness on older adults. A study by researchers at BYU, Brigham Young University, found that prolonged social isolation is as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day and is more harmful than obesity. That's a huge problem when you consider that social isolation affects 1 in 5 older Americans. ACL is investing in the overall well-being of older adults. Many of the programs we support at the local level help prevent isolation. You probably heard about our Older Americans Act Meals program as an example that provides group and home-delivered meals to older adults. An important element of these programs is the social interaction they offer. The nutrition program is our largest program, but it's not the only way the Aging Network is addressing the problem of social isolation, and by extension, the health problems it can lead to. In fact, many of the programs funded by ACL and implemented by the networks address social isolation through the provision of other services. It's a secondary benefit, but one that is intentionally incorporated. There also are programs that tackle social isolation directly. These include senior center activities, facilitating opportunities for volunteerism and civic engagement, and things like providing transportation to seniors to enable them to help other older adults get to the doctor or shopping or to get themselves to these activities. Research suggests that remaining socially engaged improves the quality of life for older adults, as the Surgeon General talked about a moment ago, and is associated with better health. For example, studies suggest that older adults report feeling healthier and happier when they participate in what they see as meaningful activities. So pleased that Dr. Roush is here to talk about new and exciting research from the Corporation for National and Community Service that further supports this assertion. At ACL, we are very interested in expanding the reach of communities to more effectively assist older adults to remain socially engaged and active. We have a long history of supporting projects that seek to enhance the lives of older adults through a variety of activities, including volunteerism, physical activity, and intergenerational efforts. So we were pleased to support the Engaged National Resource Center to highlight and encourage efforts to help older adults stay engaged. The center is providing the Aging Network and other community-based organizations with information and resources on ways older adults can engage through a variety of modalities, including volunteer opportunities, intergenerational interactions, technology, creative pursuits, and more. The center serves as a repository for innovations that can be successfully replicated by the Aging Network at the local level. Over the past year, the center has been conducting webinars and distributing a monthly newsletter to educate the Aging Network and others about proven ways to engage older adults. In addition, last September, the center and its partners assembled a distinguished group of leaders from a variety of disciplines to help inform the development of a strategic framework designed to contribute to a greater level of opportunity for and participation in social engagement activities on the part of older adults. I welcome you to visit the Center's website at engagingolderadults.org, engagingolderadults.org, to learn more about the project's activities. In closing, ACL is pleased to work with our friends of the Corporation for National and Community Service to support the use of volunteers in our programs and to provide expanded opportunities for older adults to get involved in their communities. Today, as we're looking at the largest, healthiest, and best educated generation of older Americans in U.S. history, we must look for new opportunities to engage them and to help them grow. To learn more about the aging programs in your community, we encourage you to visit the Elder Care Locator website at eldercare.acl.gov, eldercare.acl.gov to learn more about that, or visit your local area agency on aging website. So thanks again for joining us today, and I now want to pass the baton back over to Dr. Iyengar to introduce our next featured speaker. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Robertson, for your remarks and discussion of programs at ACL with concrete touch points in the area of intergenerational programming. We're very grateful. Our next featured speaker is Deborah Cox Roush, who serves as the Director of Senior Corps at the Corporation for National Community Service. It's now my pleasure to hand it off to Director Cox Roush to deliver her presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to everyone on this webinar, wherever you may be positioned throughout our great country. I'd like to thank Surgeon General Adams and Administrator Robertson for including Senior Corps on this important topic of intergenerational programming. I'm especially pleased to be with you this afternoon to talk with you about Senior Corps and our commitment to intergenerational activities. So, I will begin with a brief overview of Senior Corps, talk about our work on intergenerational issues, and then share some exciting news about the health benefits of volunteering with our Senior Corps programs. Many of you may not know that Senior Corps, a program within the federal agency of the Corporation for National and Community Service, is a network of 3 national service programs. Throughout the country, these 3 programs engage more than 220,000 Americans age 55 and older, retired or not, who use their life experience, skills, and talent to help address critical community and national needs. Each of our programs takes a different approach to volunteer service that improves lives in the communities in which our volunteers reside. Our senior companion volunteers serve to help ensure that their older, more frail neighbors, most of whom live alone, can stay in their own homes for as long as possible, delaying a move to institutional care. These volunteers help with the daily living tasks, such as paying bills, grocery shopping, and even taking their clients to medical appointments. As these peer-to-peer relationships support independence, the individuals become friends and companions who, through service, also help mitigate the loneliness and isolation that many older adults feel as they age. Additionally, these senior companion volunteers provide respite to family and other caregivers to give them time away to take care of their own needs. That's our Senior Companion Program. But our next 2 programs will be of most interest to all of you on the call today as they provide intergenerational interventions. First, our Foster Grandparent Program. This is our largest intergenerational program. It was designed specifically for older adults to provide caring support, kindness, and encouragement for children with critical social, emotional, and educational needs. Our foster grandparent volunteers serve as mentors, tutors, and role models to kids in child-centered and other settings. The consistent emotional, social, behavioral, and educational support that our foster grandparent volunteer provides is often exactly what is needed by the children in these settings. And what many people may not know is that the love and care these volunteers share is extended to support the child's high levels of physical and or emotional challenges. Later, you will hear more about our Foster Grandparent Program from Cheryl Christmas, our Washington, D.C. Foster Grandparent Program Director. Our third program in the Senior Corps portfolio, RSVP, provides flexibility for the volunteers to serve in an array of critical community needs, as well as to serve in activities in which they are interested. These volunteers provide free tax services for low-income, older adults and military families, help rebuild neighborhoods after disasters, and help coordinate other volunteers. But because the program is also designed to allow volunteers to serve in areas of their own interest, many of these adults choose to use their time to serve children. Like foster grandparents, RSVP volunteers serve as tutors and mentors who provide a consistent adult presence in a person's young life, who offer advice, share their experiences, and help that young person navigate challenges. The societal value of these intergenerational relationships has long been researched. Broadly speaking, here are just a few of the stats. Children who have the consistent guidance of an older adult are less likely to use drugs, less likely to start drinking, and more likely to engage in extracurricular activities and model other positive behavior. You know, I also want to quickly share some information about a couple of our lesser-known volunteer activities. We have foster grandparent volunteers who support children in juvenile detention facilities. These adults model appropriate behavior and help build up the self-esteem of the students that they serve. They participate in open discussions, encouraging the youth to take responsibility for their actions and to spend their time in detention working on goals that will benefit them once they return home. They also help them to prepare for their GED and help them with other projects assigned to them. More than not, many even serve together on volunteer projects. Then, another program, we have numerous foster grandparents and RSVP volunteers who serve as court-appointed special advocates, CASA, who support abused, neglected, or traumatized children who are placed in foster care. While they do not replace the social service caseworkers, they are independent appointees of the court who are trained to make recommendations to the judge that are in the best interest of the child. To prepare a recommendation, these volunteers talk with child's parents, family members, foster parents, school officials, and more who are knowledgeable about the child's situation. The CASA volunteer also reviews all records pertaining to the child, school, medical, caseworker reports, and other documents. Then, the volunteer provides the judge with a carefully researched background paper about the child, and the judge can make a sound decision for that child's future. Our CASA volunteers take their service highly, very seriously, and recommend that, based on their research, they believe what is in the best interest of the child. Their cases are unique, as the children involved, so the foster grandparent and RSVP volunteers continue to follow through on the case and attend court sessions with the child until the case is permanently resolved. Knowing that this adult is there just for them helps to ease the child's fears and anxieties. Whether helping a child in school or easing a child's anxiety in a hospital or other high-pressured circumstance, the volunteers in these intergenerational relationships don't just focus on educational engagement, but work toward supporting the emotional and overall development of the child at hand. These relationships lead to improved class participation, fewer absences from school, less discipline, and a general better positive attitude overall. These volunteers are at the center of social change in our communities, and these examples are but just a snippet of the varied activities of our foster grandparent, senior companion, and RSVP volunteers who are strengthening the fabric of our nation. Now that I've shared with you the value of our programs to communities, let me further explain the added value of our programs to older adults. To gain a better understanding of our program's effectiveness on the volunteer, Senior Corps conducted a 3-year longitudinal study of our foster grandparent and senior companion program and their volunteers. The volunteers in these programs experience lower incomes. 20% of these volunteers have incomes of $20,000 or less. They also have lower levels of education and are vulnerable to poor health outcomes and other health disparities. But what we learned was something we long believed but had not evaluated. Volunteering is good for your health. In addition to enhancing their communities, Senior Corps volunteers themselves live healthier and happier lives. Senior Corps volunteers, as I say, feel healthier. Self-rated health has been determined to be a valid marker of actual health. Senior Corps volunteers reported higher self-rated health scores compared to older adults in similar circumstances who did not volunteer. After just 2 years of service in Senior Corps, 84% reported improved or stable health. Senior Corps volunteers are also less depressed and less isolated. Social isolation is associated with depression and health issues, including mortality. Senior Corps volunteers reported feeling significantly less depressed and less isolated compared to non-volunteers. 88% who described a lack of companionship reported a decrease in isolation. 78% who had 5 or more symptoms of depression at the beginning of the study said they felt less depressed after 2 years. We learned some interesting facts about retention rates of our volunteers. Retention rates were higher among the volunteers in our intergenerational foster grandparent program. During year 2 of the study, approximately 79% of foster grandparents remained in their service, which was higher than those in Senior Companion. From my travels throughout the country, I suspect it's because of the level of dedication that these older adults feel for these kids. But you know what? That's another study to be had. I've read this study 3 times, and I could talk about it ad nauseum. But my time on this webinar is limited. However, I want you to know you can find this study on our website and also a research issue brief. Just Google Senior Corps Healthy Volunteers. We have thousands of examples of intergenerational activities in our programs. So my bottom line is this. Our Senior Corps foster grandparent and RSVP volunteers give their best where they live, work, and serve the children in their communities. As they provide intense one-on-one support, these volunteers model love, acceptance, hard work, and an attitude of service and leadership to help these kids grow emotionally and put them on a path to academic success and productive citizenship. These actions produce real and sustainable impact in the lives of young people and contribute to the health of their communities. In return, they receive satisfying community service, a sense of accomplishment, and the opportunity to make new friends and improve health outcomes. I believe this is a win-win-win for our society. A win for the children in these intergenerational relationships, a win for the health of the older adults serving the kids, and a win for the huge benefit that Senior Corps programs offer communities nationwide. I thank you again. Thank you for having me on this call today, for including Senior Corps in this webinar. If you'd like to find out more about our programs and or receive notices of our funding, please visit nationalservice.gov/Senior Corps. Again, thank you so much for having me on this call today.
Thank you, Director Roush, for your overview of the Senior Corps program and your discussion of some of the data pointing to the health benefits of volunteerism in the American older adult population. Our next featured speakers are Kimberly Gallo, who serves as Director of the Aging and Adult Services for the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency, and Pam Plimpton, who is Intergenerational Coordinator for Aging and Independent Services, serving in the same county. It's my pleasure to hand it off to Director Gallo to commence their presentation.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk about building stronger communities through our intergenerational efforts. I'd like to start by first giving you a brief background. Our Aging and Independent Services is part of the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. We are the designated area agency on aging for San Diego County and have many different services and programs to serve older adults and persons with disabilities. San Diego is actually a very large county, not only geographically but population-wise, and also very diverse. We have many different races, ethnicities, and languages spoken. Our county leadership has long believed in the value of intergenerational efforts. In 2002, we had our first intergenerational coordinator position, which was housed within Health and Human Services, with a focus on implementing and supporting efforts to bring people together of all ages. Next slide, please. All of these efforts support our county's Live Well San Diego vision. This is a broad and collective effort of government, community partners, and individuals. It was launched in 2010 with the goal of building healthy, safe, and thriving communities. In 2013, our county leadership invested even further in intergenerational efforts by adding 4 additional intergenerational coordinators that represent different regions of our county and also include our Child Welfare Services Department. So now we have an intergenerational team working to build healthy, safe, and thriving communities. Next slide, please. All of this work also supports our Age Well San Diego efforts. And Age Well is the marriage of 2 important global initiatives, which is our age-friendly and dementia-friendly communities. For Age Well, we have 5 teams of county staff and community partners that work on goals towards creating a more livable community for seniors. Many of these goals have an intergenerational component, particularly under our social participation team. We have goals to create policies and practices that encourage intergenerational engagement, especially for those who are more isolated. Now I'd like to turn over to our intergenerational coordinator, Pam Plimpton, to share some specific examples of our local efforts here in San Diego.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you all for your interest in this really important topic. It's great to be with you on this webinar today. As Kim mentioned, we are very fortunate in San Diego County to have a team of intergenerational coordinators working to support efforts to bring the generations together. And we accomplish this in several different ways. Next slide, please. First, through direct implementation of intergenerational efforts. The county commits funds to support these particular efforts, and we also seek funding and other support through community partnerships. I want to share some examples with you. We have our intergenerational games. These are half-day events that are now occurring in several locations per year in our county. And during these events, active older adults are paired with elementary school age children. And they engage in very fun, non-competitive physical activities and nutrition education together. The goal is really to send the message that you can be healthy and active at any age. We also have the Safe Routes to School program. This is a national model that encourages kids to bike and walk to school, kind of a lost art sometimes. Locally, we infuse an intergenerational component to this program by having older adults serve as eyes on the street to really enhance the safety of the children. In addition, we have intergenerational gardens. This is a chance for older adults to plant together with children and teach them where healthy food comes from, try different fruits and vegetables together. In one of these programs, we actually pre- and post-test the children, the parents, and the older adult volunteers, and have been very excited to see some really positive outcomes. For example, we've seen an overall increase in the children's willingness to eat fruits and vegetables, which is obviously wonderful. But also we have individual older adult volunteers that are telling us they really have noticed health effects in their own life from being in this program, such as losing weight. All three of these examples help to address critical issues in our community, such as the incidence of childhood obesity and chronic illness within our older adult population. And they do this by promoting healthy behaviors. Next slide, please. Another way our team increasingly promotes intergenerational connections is by providing technical support to many community partners. In other words, helping them build and sustain their own efforts. For example, we're forging great partnerships with sites where intergenerational engagement is a natural fit. This includes our libraries. Libraries are a great place for people of different generations to gather, but they're not always necessarily intentionally interacting together. So we're working to help change that. One of our county branch libraries has piloted a tech program, for example. In this program, teens from a nearby high school taught older adults to become more digitally literate. And obviously this can really help the older adults be more engaged in their community and feel less isolated. Another wonderful shared space for intergenerational engagement is parks and recreation centers. We're collaborating with several in our county, especially to support kinship families in our region, such as grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. We've received feedback from these families that they really want more opportunities to just have fun together, even though they often have very tight budgets. So we've worked with parks and recreation staff from the county to create a kinship family campout event, which we've dubbed Gramping. It's been very positively received. Some of these families that have participated have never had the opportunity to go camping together before. So we really hope they'll continue to enjoy the outdoors together as a family. We also work to strengthen and support some of the great existing intergenerational programs in our community. One example of this is Experience Corps, some of you may be familiar with. This is a program supported by the AARP Foundation, in which older adults serve as tutors to emerging readers. It's implemented in our county by the Children's Initiative, a nonprofit agency, and we've consulted with them from time to time to assist, particularly with a very common challenge we hear from many community partners, which is recruiting sufficient numbers of older adult volunteers to meet the need. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just wanted to mention our broader efforts to build capacity, both within our team, but also within the entire county. We have an intergenerational programs directory. This identifies many of the great local opportunities for youth and older adults to get involved in their community. It can be found along with other helpful information on the intergenerational pages of our Live Well San Diego website. My colleagues on the team also host intergenerational councils every other month in both the east and north regions of our county. Anyone who's interested is invited to come and join these councils. It's a great chance to network, to share ideas and best practices with each other. We also support national and international efforts to spread the word about the incredible value of intergenerational efforts. For example, our team serves on committees to help plan the Global Intergenerational Conference, which is spearheaded every other year by Generations United, a nonprofit agency dedicated to intergenerational work that was previously mentioned. We'll be presenting workshops at this year's event, hosted by Bridge Meadows in Portland in June. I would certainly encourage any of you who might be interested to attend if you can. It's going to be a great opportunity to learn and share. There's more information on the screen about that, including the website of Generations United, which I have to say has a treasure trove of resources and publications on it to help communities build their intergenerational efforts. Next slide, please. In closing, we'd like to just sum up our efforts here in San Diego County in one sentence. It's really all about building livable communities for all ages across the lifespan. Now, we realize most of you participating in this webinar likely do not have the good fortune to have a whole team of intergenerational coordinators to help propel this work forward. But our advice to you is this: start wherever you are and build from there. One of our parks and recreation centers, for example, has both a daycare center and programming for older adults at their site, and sometimes they just have the older adults join the children for lunch or bring a show and tell item to share with the kids. Intergenerational efforts really can be large, but they can also be smaller scale. They can involve many people or few.
So as Pam was saying, in the end, it's really just about forging relationships. So no matter what your situation is, we encourage you to look at the work you're already doing through an intergenerational lens and think about how you can enhance your efforts of bringing people together of different ages. So if you have any questions, I know because we're limited on time, our contact information is here, and we're very happy to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kim and Pam. I appreciate it for providing an on-the-ground perspective of your program, examples of intergenerational efforts and models, and ways to build capacity in our respective communities across the nation. To provide another on-the-ground perspective, we round out our panel of featured speakers with Cheryl Christmas, who serves as Project Director of the Washington, D.C. Senior Corps Foster Grandparent Program. It's now my pleasure to hand it off to Director Christmas to deliver her presentation.
Thank you so much. As you said, my name is Cheryl Christmas, and I serve as the Project Director in Washington, D.C. I'd like to first thank Assistant Secretary Lance Robertson, Surgeon General Dr. Adams, and, of course, Senior Corps Director Deborah Cox-Roush for including me in the webinar today. I'm going to build upon Debbie's Senior Corps presentation and share how Senior Corps Foster Grandparent Program operates in local communities like Washington, D.C. I've summarized a few of the program facts on the slide that is included. The Foster Grandparent Program is usually sponsored by a government, not a local government or non-for-profit organization or other community-based entities. The Washington, D.C. program is sponsored by the United Planning Organization, a community action agency. The alignment with sponsor organizations provides administrative support and ensures the programs are meeting the needs of local community. We recruit, place persons 55 years and older who live at or below 200% of poverty income guidelines. These adults receive a small hourly stipend and transportation reimbursement to help defray the cost of volunteering. In D.C., they serve at one of 55 sites that support children from birth to 21 years of age. My program, volunteers serve at 17 public elementary schools, 17 early Head Starts, 8 early education centers, 7 public elementary schools, 3 hospitals, and a youth program. These seniors share their gifts of wisdom and patience with socially and economically disadvantaged students in a variety of educational environments. Engaging this underutilized resource of foster grandparents impacts local communities in several ways. They support the educational goals of disadvantaged students, keep seniors active and socialized, which you've heard about from Debbie, and supports learning institutions in the classroom. Now, how do we do what we do? I've served as the project director since 2005. When I initially started, the program was in deficit of participants for our funding level, so recruitment was the #1 goal. How and where do we recruit? Finding active seniors who love children is an important dynamic of intergenerational programs. I did not think my answer was in senior centers because many of the seniors are seeking adult activities, not looking to serve with children. I also knew of our many churches and active seniors, so I visited churches. Then visited all the places where we knew they would be between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2. And that's important because seniors are out 10 a.m. to 2. They were running errands at drugstores, grocery stores, community gardens, auto repairs, libraries, beauty shops. So that's where we recruited. We stood on high-traffic bus stops, set up tables in stores, conducted impromptu presentations, and beauty and barber shops. We went where they were, and they came to us. Once we got them in, we had to ensure not only that their volunteer service they would enjoy their volunteer service, but also effectively support the classrooms and other places that they serve. That's why we provide a 40-hour dynamic pre-service training. We train our seniors in explaining how children learn at various ages, what it feels like to be a student, providing them with the tools to deal with children in a variety of settings. We continue this training each month. We bring together all 200 of our foster grandparents for an in-service training, which provides an opportunity for the group to fellowship, teaches new classroom skills, and offers speakers and information on topics which impact the quality of their lives. Twice a year, we host volunteer recognition, an opportunity to celebrate their work and personal accomplishment. These events demonstrate our appreciation for service, and for many of our seniors, it's one of their most important social events of the year. One of the keys to retention and ensuring quality experience is that we make a great match between the foster grandparent, the age of the child they would like to support, and the setting in which they are placed. When this is done, they are given an assignment plan which clearly identifies the kind of children they'll serve, whether students or in other settings such as hospitals. In program year 17-18, 175 foster grandparents provided 175,000 hours of service. We touched the lives of 5,000 District of Columbia children and circulated over 600,000 of stipends in low-income communities that the foster grandparents live in and serve. Now I want to talk just a minute about where they serve. 91% of our foster grandparents are assigned to early learning and elementary classrooms. A typical day begins with a foster grandparents greeting students with happy, smiling faces. Then it's circle time to go over the days of the week, the weather, classroom assignments. The foster grandparents move among the students to ensure that everyone is focused, answering questions, repeating information given by the teacher, encouraging students to participate, and praising their accomplishments. Next, they move into focused individual or small group activities in which they work with flashcards, worksheets, or computer-based instruction, consistently reinforcing the lesson at hand by reviewing work or helping students complete a task. Additionally, grandparents teach fair play, conflict resolution, and physical development through play during recess. Our foster grandparents assigned to hospitals will comfort patients as they take medical tests, treatments, await hospital appointments. They read and play with patients confined to bed and assist in the completion of schoolwork. And perhaps another population is our youth. Our foster grandparents, which work with Job Corps, work side by side with teens in vocational training tracks in classroom on subjects needed to obtain their GED or high school diplomas. They will mentor on self-esteem, peer pressure, responsibility, educational, and personal goal setting, substance abuse, family relations, and the consequences of criminal behavior. To ensure the highest productivity and cost-effectiveness of the program, we have a small staff of 2 full-time, 2 part-time, which results in basically 75 cents of every dollar goes directly into our program operations. The program is also supported by community partners, small grants, and donations. As you see on the slide, there's just a few little facts. Our average income of our grandparent is just about $1,000. The average volunteer serves 35 hours a week, and the average length of stay is 60, although I do have people that have been with us for 20 and 24 years. In conclusion, I'd like to encourage all of you to start an intergenerational program like Senior Corps foster grandparents in your community. Be sure to recruit in target areas, develop partnerships with other organizations working with seniors and children, and involve the larger community in your efforts. Intergenerational programs make a difference in the emotional and educational success of children who may face many obstacles. Our foster grandparent program is highly cost-effective in design. It is my hope that one day there's an intergenerational program like foster grandparent in every community in America. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl, for providing an overview of your foster grandparent program here in the D.C. area. I want to thank all of our speakers for their stimulating, thought-provoking, and engaging presentations. We will now proceed to the Q&A portion of the webinar by answering a couple of questions, time permitting, submitted to us via the chat pod. And I know we're running over a bit of time for a little bit, so the first question is directed to Assistant Secretary Robertson and Director Roush, and I'm hoping they can answer it in that order. Does ACL and the Corporation for National Community Service work together at the national level? Assistant Secretary Robertson.
Oh, yeah, great question. Of course, we're very excited that we do work very closely together. ACL and the Corporation mutually supports efforts that recognize the vital contributions that older adults make in their neighborhoods and communities, of course, across this country. Over the years, our agencies really have worked together on activities and initiatives designed to further promote and encourage older people engagement. In fact, later this spring, ACL looks forward to entering into a new multi-year partnership with the Corporation to engage older adults in addressing the needs of vulnerable populations through volunteer services. Debbie?
I think you said it in a nutshell. We are almost connected at the hip. I think we meet every month, and ACL is a great partner for Senior Corps and for the Corporation for National Community Service and all of the programs that we have. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that we're all in this together, and our partnership with ACL just proves that. We're in this together. It's a challenge for everyone in America. So I'm excited about the signing of our MOU coming up. Also, Secretary Robertson is going to be a keynote speaker at 2 of our issue conferences that we're going to have this summer, one on opioids in Columbus, Ohio, and one on elder justice here in Washington, D.C. So we work together all the time.
That's right. Thanks to you both. I'm going to bundle together a couple of thoughts and pass it over to Kim and Pam in San Diego. If you had to boil down a couple of 2 or 3 insights to a community who wants to start employing this intergenerational programming in their community, what sort of insights or take-home points would you want to share with them?
Well, I think as we've talked about, the key is to just start where you are. We realize sometimes that people have difficulty with their capacity to put on, a large-scale program. But even if they just look for ways to bring older and younger together and make sure that rather than just doing an activity, they're actually learning about each other and sharing and building that intergenerational connection. So you want to enhance that interaction best you can. And the other thing I would say is just look for community partners who are like-minded, because it does take a village. And when you do have limited capacity, you need to find youth-serving organizations, older adult-serving organizations that you can partner up with and share resources.
Cheryl, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I agree with everything she just said, and I'd add on, as you communicate with seniors, we always have to be sure that we target our recruitment Make sure your documents are large. People can see them. Just get out there and talk to people. There are so many people willing to serve.
I think that's a good closing point. And in the interest of time, I want to express my profound thanks to the entire panel of featured speakers and to you, the participants, for attending. As a reminder, this webinar is recorded, and we plan to share the link to the webinar recording when available. Have a good rest of your day, and feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions or follow-ups. Thank you very much.
All right.
And this concludes today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.